Hello everyone, this is Lindsay Wagner of Scott Wagner and Associates. Thanks for joining us today on Facebook Live. Today we're going to discuss unemployment compensation during the COVID-19 pandemic. This edition today is just specific to California employees. We've been getting many questions about unemployment rights during the COVID-19 pandemic, and today this one is for you Californians. So listen up if you have questions about unemployment. We're here to answer those questions. So the topics that we're going to be discussing today is the Emergency Unemployment Insurance Stabilization and Access Act, which is just the fancy way of saying the unemployment benefits and extensions that have come out of legislation since we've had this coronavirus going on and the pandemic, and then also some questions and answers at the end. So first question is, where can I apply for unemployment? Where do I go if I need to file for unemployment? Traditionally, there were offices open in California, the American Job Centers. You could actually go in person and apply, get questions answered. They could help you with your applications. Those offices are closed because of the coronavirus pandemic, and it's our understanding that they're also not equipped or operating right now by phone through those job center offices. So the only way that you can apply for unemployment benefits at the moment in California is through the Economic Development, EDD, which is online. And here is the website. It's very easy to go on and complete your application online, and at the moment that's the only way to apply. If you have any questions or issues with your application, the unemployment office does have a main phone line, but it's staffed to limited hours, only 8 a.m. to noon Pacific time. And it's our understanding that individuals are having a very hard time getting through even during those limited hours. We also know that EDD has been ramping up its employment, so they're trying to hire more people as they've had historic and unprecedented numbers of applications for unemployment, but we do know that the system is taxed, overwhelmed, and individuals are having a hard time getting through. So if you're frustrated, you filed for unemployment, you haven't heard anything yet, it's coming. You're not alone in that way. The system is very taxed right now with the number of applications that they're getting, so be patient. Know that there is a phone line that you can call during those limited hours. If you become unemployed for whatever reason, or as we're talking about the different reasons that you might qualify for unemployment, you should apply immediately online as soon as you can. Traditionally, for qualifying for unemployment in California, you had to wait at least 1 week until after the date that qualified you to not be able to work or otherwise be eligible for benefits. Governor Newsom has actually waived that 1 week waiting period, so you can apply the day that your hours are reduced or you're unable to work for specific reasons that we'll talk about. So don't delay in doing that, especially since there have been delays in getting those applications processed. Go online and file your application through EDD. We'll also be talking about the additional $600 benefits that are available through the CARES Act, which is new and specific to the coronavirus pandemic. Just so that you know, there's no separate application for individuals to receive those federal benefits. So once you apply for unemployment benefits through EDD, that'll set you up for potential qualification. With the CARES Act, you don't need to do anything further for that additional $600 benefit that we'll talk about later. So who can qualify for unemployment benefits? First, employees traditionally have always been, and they can now. So employees are also called claimants. To be able to submit your application, you're going to need a social security number, as well as your driver's license or state ID number. The social security number is important. We'll talk about later, what if you don't have a social security number? Are you eligible? But for purposes of right now and talking about eligibility, you need your social security number to be able to apply online. You're also going to need your employment information for the last 18 months. So your start and end dates for each employer, which includes their name, address, and phone number, your first and last day of work, your gross earnings before your taxes are taken out during the listed dates, and your reasons for separation, why you aren't working anymore. You're also going to need the FEIN number. You can find this on your W-2 or on your pay stubs for California employees. So this is all the information that you're going to want to have available and gathered when you're applying and logging into the EDD server so that you can go ahead and submit for your application. Who's eligible to apply for California benefits? Well, it's changed since the coronavirus pandemic, but generally individuals who are unemployed through no fault of your own. So this has to be that you haven't been terminated for misconduct. If the employer challenges whether or not you're eligible for unemployment, they can go ahead and file an appeal, and that'll go into an appeal hearing or an appeal evaluation through EDD. But generally, if it's not because of misconduct, if you were laid off, if it was poor performance, you couldn't meet your numbers, those other kind of reasons, those are going to qualify for unemployment benefits. If you quit, you could actually still be eligible for unemployment benefits, but you have to have good cause for quitting. And you're going to also have to show that you made a reasonable attempt to keep your job. Right now, with the coronavirus pandemic, if you had to quit because your child's school closed and you had to take care of your child, that can be establishing good cause. If you have a certain illness and otherwise couldn't go into work, under certain circumstances that could constitute good cause. We'll talk about that during this presentation. So all of those can be other reasons. Specific to the coronavirus, it's also important to know that good cause for quitting can be if you quit because of unsafe working conditions, if you quit because a medical doctor advised you to quit, and then also if you quit because you were protecting yourself or your child from domestic abuse. So all of those can also constitute good cause for quitting and can provide for eligibility for unemployment benefits. To be able to qualify, you have to be totally or partially unemployed. So what does it mean to be partially unemployed? Well, this could actually be if your hours were reduced. So especially during the pandemic, right now, if your hours were cut, you may qualify in certain circumstances for unemployment and get a difference in the benefits that you're not receiving because your hours were reduced. And we'll talk about logistics of how that works during the presentation. What other eligibility requirements? You must have a minimum amount of wages in the base period. So the base period is 12 months prior to your claim. So we're going to look back a year from the date that you file. Now each base period has 4 quarters that are divided up into 3 months. So when we talk about quarters in the base period, we're really talking about 3-month periods. So who qualifies for the minimum amount of wages? Your minimum amount of wages and what you're going to get for unemployment are based on the earnings that you got during the base period. So when the EDD is looking at how much can you get from unemployment, because there's a range of amount, they're going to look at how much did you earn during that past 12 months to make a decision about where you're going to fall between the $40 and the $450 that you could get per week in unemployment. To have any claim for unemployment, you have to have earned at least $1,300 in your highest quarter of your base period. So at least in a 3-month period in the past year, you have to have earned $1,300 within a 3-month period, or you had to have earned $900 in one of those 3-month periods, and your total base period earnings, so within the whole year, you had to have earned 1.25 times higher your highest quarter of earnings. That's really confusing. If you're think you meet the qualifications, our recommendations are go ahead and apply. Let the EDD make a decision about whether or not you're qualified for that. If you're confused, there's also some great resources online where I'll give you guys the site and you can actually check your eligibility on that through the EDD, and it'll actually tell you how much it's estimated that you would potentially earn from unemployment. So that's a great tool, and I'll provide that link during this presentation. And the last eligibility requirement is you must remain physically able and available to work. So if you're temporarily unemployed due to COVID and you're expected to return in a few weeks, you don't have to actively seek work each week, but otherwise you have to be able and available to work. So for individuals who are actually sick or can't work, you're not going to be eligible for unemployment. There are other state options that provide for benefits that we'll talk about during this presentation, but to qualify for unemployment, physically able and available to work, have a job popped up is a requirement for eligibility. So, question is, well, what if I don't have a social security number? Do I qualify for unemployment? What if I have what's called an I-10 or ITIN number? Does that qualify me for unemployment? Unfortunately, no. The I-10 number isn't a substitute for a valid social security number. So that's not going to count for some purposes, but if you can show that you were in a satisfactory immigration status and authorized to work in the U.S., you can get unemployment. So, so the question is, what was your immigration status? Was it satisfactory? And if you can show that you were authorized to work in the U.S., then you can get unemployment. And that's going to be a case-by-case basis. The state of California is going to defer to the Department of Homeland Security regulations as to what is a satisfactory immigration status. If you have specific questions about this, this is a good question for an immigration lawyer or an employment lawyer who does specialize in unemployment benefits. But an immigration lawyer can assist you with these questions. The CARES Act excludes eligibility for those paying with an individual tax identification number. So the CARES Act is the act that's going to give individuals an extra $600 on top of their unemployment that we'll be talking about. But individuals who are paying their taxes with an I-10 number aren't going to be eligible for that additional $600. However, if you're a foreign national, if you're a lawful permanent resident, a green card holder, you could be potentially eligible for that CARES Act benefits for unemployment. So this is a really cool new thing, self-employment and independent contractors. So I guess the silver lining of the coronavirus pandemic is that the laws now have expanded for purposes of just addressing this pandemic to include unemployment benefits for those who are self-employed as well as those who are independent contractors. So all you freelancers out there, gig workers in California, you can qualify and apply for unemployment benefits in California through December 31st, 2020. So if any time between now and December 31st, 2020, you become unemployed or otherwise stop earning an income, for self-employed individuals, if you have to close down your business and you're not earning an income, you can actually apply for unemployment benefits and qualify for them due to the coronavirus pandemic. Importantly, though, the next question might be, well, how do I go about applying? So the federal government did issue regulations to say that self-employed and independent contractors can be covered under state unemployment benefits. Unfortunately, as of yesterday, there is no way for self-employed individuals or independent contractors to apply through EDD's system. The state of California is saying that they're waiting on further guidance from the federal government about how to roll that out. So in practical purposes, what we're hearing is that individuals who are self-employed try to go through the EDD system and get stuck because they can't enter information about maybe a W-2 or what their employer paid them because they were self-employed, and therefore they're not able to move on to the next steps for their application process. It's our understanding that they're working on that in the state of California, and we hope that that'll be up soon. At the end of this presentation, I'll provide you guys with a link where you can go and look for further updates about the EDD system. The good news is we expect that once that system does get fixed so that self-employed individuals can apply, that the benefits will apply retroactively. So just because you can't apply today doesn't mean that you'll be missing out on benefits. If you otherwise would have qualified for a prior time, those benefits you should get paid retroactively. At the moment, for freelancers and gig workers, the only way that they can apply is if they were misclassified and they're saying, hey, I was labeled as an independent contractor, but I really should have been an employee. That would give you a way to be able to apply through the EDD system. But if you really were a true independent contractor, in those limited circumstances where there can be independent contractors, or you really were a true freelancer, you're not going to be able to apply just yet through the system until they make those changes to open that up to allow self-employed and independent contractors to apply. So how much can you get from California unemployment? Well, we're very lucky in California that we have a robust unemployment system. So the California unemployment benefits range from $40 a week to $450 per week. Again, depending on your highest earnings in that 12-month period. So that's what we talked about before, the 1-year look-back period. They're going to look at what were your earnings in those 3-month quarter increments and make a determination on a sliding scale about how much you can get. And it's based on your earnings. Here is a benefit calculator link. So this is the benefit calculator that we were discussing earlier. You can also navigate through the EDD system on their website to find this benefit calculator if you're not able to write down this website. But if you go to this benefit calculator and put in your information about your earnings, it should tell you with relative precision as to what your benefits would be. Now keep in mind, these are just your state of California benefits. We'll talk about additional benefits that you might be able to receive through the coronavirus pandemic and federal regulations. So this amount doesn't include that. It could actually be more with the CARES Act additional benefits, but this will tell you what you might qualify for in the state of California. So the $600 I keep talking about, what is this? So what happened is the federal government, in response to the coronavirus pandemic, enacted the CARES Act. The CARES Act is really great for individuals who are unemployed because it tacks on an additional $600 to your benefits. So this is pretty incredible because if you are a high wage earner and you get the maximum benefits from California unemployment of $450, the CARES Act is going to give you an additional $600 on top of the $450 that you're earning per week. Those benefits, the $600 from the CARES Act, is only going to be available for individuals at the moment through July 31st, 2020, no matter when you're separated from your job, whether it's now or whether it's in June. The $600 at the moment is only available through July 31st, 2020. The interesting part about the $600 though is it's all or nothing. So if you qualify for $1 of unemployment benefits in California, you're going to get the full $600. So this is really interesting because if you are in a situation where your hours have been reduced at work, so maybe you're not qualifying for the full $450, maybe you're just qualifying for an additional $40 of benefits under the unemployment, you're still going to be eligible for this additional $600 per week of benefits. Right now, those $600 are not being processed Although we understand that if that hasn't happened yet, that it's going to happen very soon. So if you're worried, if you're getting unemployment benefits and you're just getting the state unemployment 450 amount, you're thinking, where's my additional $600? It's coming, and it'll come automatically. It'll come through the same way that that you're getting your unemployment benefits. And so it'll be applied retroactively. So if you haven't gotten it yet, don't despair. They can apply it retroactively, and that amount will be coming to you soon as part of this CARES Act. So are there other unemployment benefits from this CARES Act that individuals can take advantage of? Yes, so in addition to the state unemployment benefits, in California, if you qualify for unemployment benefits, you can actually get unemployment benefits for up to 26 weeks, which is quite long in comparison to other states. The CARES Act is going to provide an additional 13 weeks of unemployment benefits for individuals that need them. Now remember, let's go back to our eligibility requirements. So you have to be total or partially unemployed, you have to be ready and available for work, and you have to have met the other qualifications for applying for a job. But most importantly, to continue with your unemployment benefits, you have to be partially or fully unemployed, and you have to be ready and able to work. So as long as those are occurring and you're actually looking for work, if that takes you a full 39 weeks, you can actually now get a full 39 weeks of these benefits. Importantly though, that you're not, if your benefits, if you lose your job in August, at the moment, the way that the law is written, you're going to be past the due date for getting that additional $600 for the CARES Act, but you can still get these additional 13 weeks of benefits because that benefit's going to last through December 31st, 2020. So you can actually get longer unemployment now if you qualify for it based on the CARES Act. What other benefits do you get from the CARES Act? So we've heard about these stimulus checks, and this isn't necessarily for unemployment. This is also for any individuals that qualify, but it is part of the CARES Act, so it's worth discussing during this conversation about the stimulus checks, because I know we've gotten a lot of questions about that. So the CARES Act provides up to $1,200 of stimulus rebate checks to individuals who have an adjusted gross income up to $75,000. If you're married, that amount is up to $150,000, and then you can actually get a rebate for $500 per child. If you make more than $75,000 but less than $99,000 a year, you can actually you'll actually also receive a stimulus check, but it's going to be reduced on a sliding scale. So you're not going to get that full $1,200. It's going to be less. And if you're a married couple, that threshold is $198,000 or less. So how is the government making a determination as to who's eligible for this? Well, they're looking at your 2018 and 2019 tax records and tax returns, and it's important because they're looking at both of them. With new regulation that's come out, I know that the 2019 tax return deadline has been extended, so there might be quite a few people out there who have not yet filed their 2019 tax returns. If you haven't done that yet, you're going to need to go online to the IRS online form to complete. It's not going to put you on the hook for taxes, is what the IRS is saying, but you do have to complete this form in order to obtain direct payment. So let me repeat that again. If you haven't filed your 2019 tax returns yet, you're not going to be eligible for the stimulus rebate check until you complete this IRS form online. I don't have a link for that, but my understanding is that you should be able to navigate that on the IRS website per the IRS regulations, and that you can complete that form. Once you've done that, or once you've filed your 2019 tax returns, then you're automatically going to be eligible if you meet the other income requirements to be able to get these stimulus check bills. Importantly, if you're an adult and you're claimed as a dependent by other adults, you're not going to be eligible for payments. So this is going to include maybe college students whose parents are claiming them as a dependent, or maybe older senior citizens who are claimed as dependents. They're not going to get their own stimulus check if they're claimed as a dependent by other adults in their 2018 and 2019 tax returns. One of the important questions that we've been getting that's interesting is, what about individuals receiving Social Security benefits? Maybe they haven't had to file their tax returns. Do I have to do something to be eligible for the stimulus check? Will I get a stimulus check? Yes, you will. You don't need to do anything more. You don't need to file any of these tax returns or go online to the IRS form to be able to be eligible for the rebate checks. You'll automatically be eligible for that. Who can get these checks? Do undocumented workers get them? Unfortunately, no. It's a big gap in the stimulus bill, but the definition of eligible individual does not include a non-resident alien or an undocumented worker. So even for those individuals who have I-10s and are filing their taxes that way, they're not going to be eligible for the stimulus check. The other question is, do I need to go and fill something out to be able to get my stimulus check? No, your payments are going to be automatic. There's no application necessary. And as of today, the government's estimating that these checks are going to start going out by April 24th. So if you filled out your taxes for 2018 and 2019 and provided direct deposit information to the IRS will go ahead and use that information for a direct deposit. The IRS is also able to mail your checks out, but they're estimating that it could take up to 5 months for those checks to get out. Alternatively, the IRS is going to be establishing an online portal, if you haven't already provided them with direct deposit access, where you can give them your bank information so that they can do a direct deposit for your stimulus check. So for unemployment, when will you receive your benefits? This has been a big question for individuals who have applied. They've been waiting. They haven't heard anything. Well, according to California EDD, if you applied for benefits before March 15th, 2020, you should have already received your benefits. If you haven't yet, there might be an issue where the EDD is requiring more information. Maybe there's a challenge as to whether or not you quit for good cause. Maybe they're needing more contact information, but it's important that you check in with your online portal to see if there's any information or messages there, regularly checking your mail, because there might be an issue with your benefits if you applied before March 15th and you haven't started receiving those yet. If you applied for benefits after March 15th, the system's overloaded. They are working on it, but the EDD recommends that you are regularly checking your email and your USPS mail for EDD claim information. You are required to certify your benefits. So as soon as the EDD processes your application, they're going to send you some questions for some basic questions to complete every 2 weeks. This entitles you to continuing benefits. So this is super important. Every 2 weeks that you're getting benefits, you're going to have to answer basic questions with the EDD that you're still unemployed and you're still eligible for payments. You can do this through your online account, but this is why it's important that you're regularly checking that online account and keeping up with your certifications, because if you miss those certifications, then they may cut off your unemployment benefits. Most benefits will arrive on an EDD debit card unless you have an alternative set up through EDD, but you should be getting your payments on that debit card. So just to give you an example here, if you're in different states or just wondering about how long people get insurance or unemployment insurance in other states, all of these states that are in the medium color blue offer at least 26 weeks of unemployment benefits. That's California. There are some states that offer fewer than 26 weeks, but luckily we're in the majority of the states that offer 26 weeks or more. So what if you're laid off, you're furloughed, there's a temporary closing? Can you still be eligible for unemployment benefits? Yes, you can. as long as you can prove that your unemployment is connected to the coronavirus outbreak. So if you were furloughed due to coronavirus, you're still going to be eligible for unemployment. If your employer temporarily closed, you might be eligible for reemployment assistance, but you still must be able to work. Although if it's a short-term closure, you're not required to look for work. So remember, if you meet a certain threshold requirement, you don't have to continue looking for work if it's a temporary layoff, but you do have to remain able to work. One of the questions is, what if your employer gave you a definite return to work date? So let's say maybe you're in the restaurant industry and the company says, look, we're going to close down until May 1st, and on May 1st, we're bringing everybody back. Can you apply for unemployment benefits then? Yes, you can. But one of the important things is, what if you get your payout of all your vacation pay or your holiday pay? How does that affect your unemployment benefits? So if you're given a definite return to work date, your vacation or your holiday pay that you're paid out when your job ends can be deducted from your benefits. So if you see any deductions there for those individuals that are short-term laid off, that is a provision that your vacation and holiday pay can be deducted from your benefits. What if you have a reduction of hours? So if your hours and earnings have been reduced, you can be eligible for benefits. Remember that you're going to have to qualify for your earning amount, that you earned at least the $1,300 in your highest quarter of your base employment. But even with a reduction of hours, you can be eligible for unemployment. So that's important to know. What if you have a fear of reporting to work? So remember, good cause under the eligibility requirements is if you are having to quit because of unsafe working conditions, or if you have to quit because of a medical doctor's advice. So if there are situations that arise under one of those, you might be eligible for quitting under good cause requirements. So you can still apply online if you find yourself in one of those situations and be eligible for unemployment benefits. What if you're unable to work because your child's school closed, which is pretty much everybody in California, or your child care can no longer come because of the quarantine orders? So under those situations, and specific to the coronavirus pandemic, you can also be eligible for unemployment, but you have to show that you have no other child care options and you can't continue working your normal hours even remotely. If you find yourself in those situations, then we'd encourage you to go ahead and apply for unemployment benefits. What if you're unable to work during the quarantine? So you can be eligible in this situation, but you're going to have to show that you're truly unable to work, so that there's no telecommute options available, and otherwise that your company's closed because of the quarantine. So what if you become ill or you're caring for a family member and otherwise can't work? So if you're on paid leave or sick leave, you're not going to qualify for unemployment. So for individuals who are out and getting paid for sick leave, unemployment's not an option for you. If you are caring for someone else and you can't work, but your company remains open, you might be eligible for the California Paid Family Leave Program. And so you can't get those California paid family leave benefits for the same period of unemployment. So it's either or, but that is something that's available to you if you're caring for a family member. Maybe that's not the reason that maybe that's the reason that you can't work, and therefore that's going to qualify you for this leave program, and you can file through EDD for those benefits as well. But if you yourself are sick or injured, including if you're unable to work because you were exposed to COVID-19, you're not going to be eligible for unemployment benefits. Instead, you're going to be potentially eligible for short-term disability benefits. Those are also processed through California's EDD website. You can apply online for those. This is for individuals who maybe can't work their full capacity because of an illness, or individuals who completely can't work at all. For those benefits, you're actually going to get 60 to 70% of your wages with a maximum of $1,300 per week. The nice part about short-term disability benefits, different from unemployment benefits, is that they're generally not taxable. So again, if your hours were reduced, I know we talked about this, you can file for unemployment, but again, your hours must have been reduced through no fault of your own. And one of the popular questions is, what if I'm getting a severance? So I got laid off, my company offered me a severance, can I apply for unemployment? Generally, yes. In the state of California, severance isn't considered wages for unemployment purposes. And the state of California actually has elements that it considers to decide whether or not a payment is a severance. Like, is it part of a company plan? Is it part of a company policy? Is it a payment for a specific reason, like a reduction in force? All of these elements are available for your review on the EDD website, but it's just worth discussing that people should know if they're receiving a severance, you're still going to be eligible. You should go ahead and apply for unemployment benefits because generally those aren't going to be considered wages. And if you're not working anymore and otherwise meet eligibility requirements, you'll be able to apply for unemployment. Another question is, can I get unemployment and short-term disability at the same time? Quick answer, no. That's under the unemployment insurance code, it's either or. And lastly, where can I get updates about unemployment in California during the pandemic? So if you're having questions, frustrations, this website will be golden for you. You can also just do a quick internet search for coronavirus, EDD, and this site should pop up for you. But otherwise, the EDD is keeping updates about when the application for self-employed individuals is going to be provided, how are claims being processed, if you're wondering what's the status of your claim, and when is my CARE Act $600 coming out. All of that information and more should be available on the EDD website, so you guys can continue to check that out. So if anybody has any questions,